Hello, namaskar viewers. I am Sanjeev Pandya welcoming you to the Tax Time right here on ITV Gold. As you know, this weekly show brings you all that you need to know when it comes to taxes, personal taxes as well as corporate taxes. And of course, we're in the middle of the tax season. Some of you may have filed your tax returns, personal tax returns, corporate tax returns. Obviously, March 15, that was a one deadline, so must have been filed. But there are people who still haven't filed the tax returns, or maybe they filed the extensions and they're still wondering what to do, what not to do. They may have many questions on their minds, and that's why we are here for, to get you all the information that you need to know when it comes to taxes. The show is brought to you by Sai CPA Services, a full-fledged accounting firm, bookkeeping firm, payroll services, and all kind of tax related matters. They can help you out with their multiple locations in the state of New Jersey. You can give them a call at 908-380-6876 or visit their website scicpaservices.com. You can visit their office, you can give them a call over the phone or even a Zoom call. Everything is possible, and their experience and knowledgeable CPAs will certainly help you out to make sure that you file your taxes right. That is the number one motto that they have. File your taxes right. Whatever it is, refund or not refund, but file your taxes. That's what their motto is, to file your taxes right. And whatever the case may be, refund or no refund, but first thing is to file your taxes right and get all the deductions that you are entitled to get. So they will guide you, advise you. So do give them a call for your personal tax returns or as well as corporate tax returns. With that note, I'd like to welcome Mr. A.J. Kumar of Science CPA Services. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sanjeev, and thank you for the kind introduction. As you rightly said, it's not about not paying the taxes. Filing taxes right is very important. Yes. There is not enough money to be playing with these things, to be playing with IRS.
I always believe in that. File your taxes right, and based upon my personal experience, that's what I'm saying. Science CPA Services can certainly help you out. Okay, so Ajayji, here we are, obviously a tax talk show, and then we talk about taxes during the tax season. But in this episode, I really want you to share your knowledge and experience and information that you have regarding these two US banks failure in the last week that occurred, and one big European bank also suffered a major setback. Two US banks definitely went haywire. They went completely north. The European bank survived, and there's another US bank which survived. We're going to come to that. So let's give our viewers insight of those banks.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So we'll talk about the taxes, but we'll be amiss if we don't talk about what's happening in the market,
yes,
especially with these big financial news. We start with Silicon Valley Bank, 16th largest bank in this country, over $200 billion bank, going bankrupt, going down. Suddenly, within 48 hours, how does this happen? What happened actually? And as a viewer, what can you do to protect yourself? Not just the Silicon Valley Bank. We'll talk about the Signature Bank, First Republic Bank, and what else? What else is coming on the horizon? So take a look at the Silicon Valley Bank first, Sanjeevji. Let's understand what actually happened. So in Silicon Valley Bank, when the depositors are putting their money, when you're putting the money in a saving deposit, you get, let's say, 1% interest. The bank is trying to deposit that money in turn, or buying some treasury bond, or giving this money out as a loan to somebody else, where the bank can collect more interest. And then the bank can make some difference to pay the salaries, this is how the bank is run at a high level. But what happens when the interest rates are so high, then the value of those bonds, value of those loan instrument goes down substantially. So if you take a look at in last 1 year, the interest rate has gone up from 2% to 8%. Prime rate is 7.75% now. So the value of those loan instrument has gone down substantially. SVB, Silicon Valley Bank, has loaned out almost the same amount of money what they had in terms of deposits. A lot of these companies, especially with Silicon Valley Bank, are the IT companies. In Silicon Valley, as they knew about the situation, and the IT industry is suffering, and when they found out that Silicon Valley Bank is going down and may not be safe, a lot of people took the money out. In one day from Signature Bank, when the Silicon Valley Bank went down, just in one day, Sanjeevji, $10 billion were taken out from Signature Bank, the second bank that went down. Because of the same reason, the amount of loans that they gave out were similar, were much higher than what they should have been giving out. And in a difficult situation, these loan instrument loses value as the interest goes up. People who have deposited the money, they want their money back. So the bank had to sell off these loan instruments at a much lower rate, at a substantial discount, at a loss. And that's how the Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank, they went down.
Okay. When it comes to Silicon Valley Bank, with 16 branches in the Silicon Valley
Absolutely.
area in California, started in 1983. And bank actually benefited heavily from the boom in the tech industry over the
Absolutely.
years. And almost all the tech companies in the industry will have their money deposited, their accounts at Silicon Valley Bank. That's how popular that was. Many successful entrepreneurs, many corporate CEOs, they have their own personal accounts in Silicon Valley Bank with hundreds of millions of dollars. And as you rightly said, that obviously they went out in treasury bonds and bought treasury bonds, and then they had to sell it at a very discounted rate. But one of the main reasons is that, and then I have a question for you also, is that their ratio of loaning out the money was equal to the percentage or ratio of the deposits they had on hand.
Absolutely.
That was a very risky move. Now, on a March 2022, in their quarterly financial report, it showed $220 billion in deposits and everything. My question to you is, Ajayji, it happened in the March. It exactly happened 1 week ago today, right? So it happened in the March. What about their year-end financials? Wouldn't that have shown some kind of red
You're right.
flag?
I'm glad you asked. So KPMG is under a lot of heat. KPMG is the bank that did the audit for this bank, and they gave them the green sheet. I mean, think about it. Their debt to asset ratio is way higher than it should be.
There you go.
I mean, it's almost 1.
Yep.
I mean, it should be much lower. But the point is, a lot of these things, when things are going well, a lot of these things are overlooked. The blessing, we don't want our viewers to be panicking. The blessing is the federal government has guaranteed that all the money will be refunded, will be given back to all the depositors. Earlier, the limit by FDIC was
$250,000. Only $250,000.
But no, well, now they are considering, now they are giving back even the deposits over $250,000.
They have to do something.
Well,
and at the end, listen, when it collapsed, the gap was $40 billion. In my opinion, the CEO of the bank could have done something to raise $40 billion, as soon as they realized that we are on the verge of collapsing, right? To go out at $40 billion, I'm not saying it's an easy task, but it could have been done.
You're right. You're right.
Just like this bank.
First Republic Bank?
Yeah, after the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and the Signature Bank, obviously regional banks came in effect, and
Absolutely.
that's the First Republic Bank came in effect. Their stocks went down. All this week we have noticed their stocks substantially went down. But guess what? In just a matter of days, a couple of banks came forward and secured $30 billion loan to First Republic Bank. And these banks are Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, Citibank, Bank of America. These are some of the banks that did it.
Absolutely. Now what we know, that things could have been done differently. Now, knowing what happened with First Republic Bank, knowing what happened with Credit Suisse Bank, that even though they had the gap, but somebody took the action, somebody went out of their way to talk to the right people, arrange the money, arrange the loan. So First Republic Bank got $30 billion.
$30 billion.
Credit Suisse got $54
billion. Now, Credit Suisse, this bank out of Switzerland, their stock went down 22%, and they also had the same thing. Their liabilities were high than their assets. So 22% went down, and a Swiss national bank, the government bank, came forward and secured 53 billion francs, which equals to $53.7 billion. They came in and immediately supported it, so we're going to save this.
Absolutely.
You can't let this kind of banks go collapse. I mean, Silicon Valley Bank, everybody just looked other way. And the other thing is, Ajayji, that I have read is that before bank collapsed, employees got bonuses.
Well, maybe when the panic is there, sometimes the CEO, the president decides to give extra money to keep the employees around, to keep the employees motivated. The last thing you want is employees leaving the job or leaving the bank. But that was not right either. And a lot of these things were overlooked by the president, by the
Yes.
members who were managing it, by the auditors who were reviewing the books. So a lot of these things are overlooked, and it's not uncommon. When things are going well, a lot of these things sort of get under the carpet, get under the radar, and nobody looks at it. When one bank fails, the second bank fails, the third bank gets into scrutiny. But now what we know in 1 week, that something could have been done, something should have been done. But there is no reason for you to panic. I mean, if you are really have more than $250,000 in a bank account, good for you, lucky you are. But try to diversify, but at least in this case, federal government has guaranteed all the depositors to give their money back.
Okay, 15 years ago today, sometime in 2008, we had one major bank, I can't remember the name, and as you know, our show is not very well exactly written. Washington Mutual Bank or some kind of mutual bank collapsed, and that was a major news back then. 15 years later, when that bank collapsed, we thought, okay, federal regulators and authorities and these banks and everything will have their things done right, will check their balance is okay and accounting okay, and nothing will happen again. And look, back to back, two banks, right?
Yes.
And here at the end of 2022, listen to this, at the end of 2022, US banks were sitting on a $620 billion in unrealized losses.
Wow.
620 billion. This is combined of all US banks we're talking
Yes,
about.
but
At the end of 2022, and assets that have decreased in price but haven't been sold out yet, according to FDIC.
Absolutely, and this is a difficult time right now with the interest rates so high, with the stock market crashing down, real estate not increasing in value, especially the commercial real estate where these banks invest. So those assets are really suffering, but that's unrealized timing of the whole issue. Hopefully within a year or two, when the market comes back, this number will look very different.
Okay, all right, let's see what happens. No, I think when the number will look different, but in the coming days and weeks, I think more and more dirt is going to come out of these two banks.
I'm sure
what
about
exactly
it.
happened,
Absolutely.
what went
It's
wrong.
always like that.
And there will be some people held accountable. As President Joe Biden said in his address to the nation Monday morning, just this week, earlier Monday morning, he said that there will be some people held accountable.
Of course.
But President Biden gave assurance to all the depositors that your money is safe, regardless how many millions you got. They're going to make sure that eventually you will have all your money back. Nobody's going to lose the money. So they're going to go above and beyond $250,000 FDIC limit. Anyway, having said that, and Credit Suisse survived, like I say, $54 billion loan from Swiss National Bank, so they're okay. I won't be surprised if any other bank comes up in the news again, but this is the information we want to share with you, and it has to do with the accounting also, as AJ mentioned, balance sheet, and balance sheet tells you what are the risky areas, and that's exactly it was, and somebody overlooked it. With that note, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll definitely give you all the information that you need to know when it comes to taxes, your personal taxes. That's coming up right after these messages. Stay with us. Welcome back to the second half of the Tax Talk with AJ right here on ITV Gold. In the first half, we talked about the bank collapsing, Silicon Valley Bank and then Signature Bank, and we also talked about Credit Suisse Bank. First Republic Bank survived the collapse because they got a big boost, a big help from the other major banks here in the US. Now it's time for us to give you information when it comes to taxes. AJ will give us the guidelines. If you're single, married, filing jointly, or household and whatnot, what are the limits and the stuff like that. But my question to you is, first of all, AJ, who should file a tax return?
Well, everybody should. But who is mandated? For whom is mandatory to file the taxes? So if somebody is making more than $12,950, almost $13,000 on a W-2, for them the tax filing is mandatory. We get this question from a lot of parents where they have the teenager children and they have some income, summer job. Do they have to file the taxes? No, they don't have to file the taxes, but depending on how much income tax have been withheld from their W-2, they may be benefited by filing the taxes. If you have large income tax withheld, you have the right to file the taxes and get the refund back to you. But if somebody's income as a single filer is less than $12,950, they don't have to file the taxes. For a married filing joint person, if their income is less than $25,900, just multiply by 2, 12,950, multiply by 2, 25,900. then you're not mandated. You don't have to. You may be better served by filing it only because you can get a refund from the government. But government will never send you a notice that you did not file the taxes in GG.
Okay, so that's a good one. That's a basic information to start with. Now, what are the common errors that can be prevented when filing a tax return?
I'm glad you asked. As much as we want everybody to use a professional help, but a lot of people use the softwares and a lot of people try to do their tax on their own. So a few things that we would like to highlight: make sure the social security number is 100% right. If the social security number is missing a digit or is not right, your tax cannot be processed. The last name is not the first name, it's the last name. First 4 characters of the last name that are very important. If you miss one of them, or even if you create a space between the characters, it will not go through, it will not be processed properly. Other than the first 4 characters of the last name that must match with the social security number, you have to be careful with your address information so the IRS can send the notice accordingly. The apartment number is right. Make sure you're not missing any document. A W-2 is not, you had a job for the summer, small W-2 still needs to be reported. You had some interest income, must be reported. You have some assets in India, needs to be reported. Rental income needs to be reported. I had only $5, must be reported. I did some work as a side job, needs to be reported. Make sure you report all the transactions. It's not about making the largest refund or bringing the lowest tax liability. Is about doing it right. So missing a document is the most common mistake that we see on the tax returns that are done not done properly.
And good points. And tax returns must be signed also, right?
Well, in these days, a lot of these tax returns are filed electronically, e-filed. So the tax returns get automatically signed. They will say, do you want to sign it and file it? And you say yes. And there is an electronically stamp that's put on the tax return. So you don't really have to physically sign these tax returns.
And what are the documents that you should have, you must have when you file your tax return?
Well, we start with the donation receipts here. I'm sure you have to have the W-2s, you have to have the 1099, you have to have the updated copy of the driver's license. All those documents are, I'm sure you understand, you need to have. But we talk about the donation, the expenses that are soft in nature. So the donation receipts must be contemporaneous in nature. You have to have the donation receipts with you when you are filing the tax. You cannot say, if the need be, I can get the donation receipt, I can arrange the donation receipt. That does not work. The donation receipts have to be there. All the expenses that you are trying to claim must be contemporaneous in nature. You have to have the receipts when you are claiming those expenses. All deductions, medical expenses or gambling losses, whatever you are claiming on your tax return, you must have a proof. You must have the receipt supporting that deduction with you when you are filing the taxes.
Okay, that is interesting. You must have all these receipts and then everything else when you file your tax return. Now, this happens to many people. Their address changes. They move from one place to another place. How do you let IRS know when your address changes?
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked. It's very important for you to let the government, and it's the IRS and the state both, to let them know the address change. There are forms. 8822 is what you can file with the IRS. Very, very simple form, one pager. Similarly, you can go to the NJ state website or any other state website and let them know the address change. When you're filing the taxes, there's a box you can select on the first page, address change box. That will also serve the same purpose, but it's very important for you to make the necessary changes. So any future communication, any notices that are coming or any other refund, sometimes government is not able to direct deposit the refund into your account. In that case, they will issue a check. If they don't know about your right address, you may not get the money.
Interesting. As we are in the middle of tax season, we are in middle of March and slowly it's going away. So maybe April 15 is the deadline for personal taxes, but is it still a good time to file it now or wait till April 15? And second question is that what are the benefits of filing a tax return sooner in the season than later?
Absolutely. So the tax deadline for this year is April 18th, April 15th being the Emancipation Day, and then this is the weekend. So April 18th is the technical deadline. We strongly advise all our viewers to file the taxes sooner than later. See, the way the system works, if you file taxes now, within 2 weeks, within 3 weeks, you will get the refund. So if you are expecting the refund, you should file the taxes now. Why wait till another month? If you owe taxes, if you have a liability, you can file it now and you can schedule the payment date to be April 15th or April 18th this year. Meaning when you're filing the taxes, there is no obligation for you to pay now. You can still pay later, but filing now can enable you to get the refund now. And another issue is when you're trying to file it the last minute, you're missing a document, you're comparing everything, now you're rushing it all up, and if you're late by a day, now the IRS and the state wants to charge you penalty. So why going to the last minute? Try to file the taxes sooner. So if you owe money, you pay on April 15th. If you have a refund, get it sooner.
Okay, that is interesting. That really helps, especially when you file your taxes earlier in the season.
Absolutely.
It helps you to get refund sooner. What if somebody didn't file tax a year before or 2 years before for whatever reason?
Absolutely. So if you were required to file taxes and you did not, then we strongly recommend you to file the taxes and go sequentially. File the extension for 2022 and try to finish filing the taxes that you missed in the prior years. If you are in a situation when you are not required to file the taxes because your income were lower than the limit that we mentioned as a single filer, your W-2 income, if it's less than 12,950, you don't have to file the taxes. On a consulting income, if you are on a 1099, anybody who had more than $600, and it's a very, very low limit, they have to file the taxes. They're required to file the taxes. But the point here is, if you did not file the prior year's taxes and you were required to file, then consider filing an extension for 2022 taxes. So you can go sequentially. Try filing the taxes, the first taxes that you missed, and then go sequentially and try to file the taxes as soon as you can.
Okay, God forbid, man, if that happens, Okay, now let's talk about refund. Everyone loves to get refund from IRS, and it's always a good feeling to get
Absolutely.
money back from IRS. It's like going to the casino and then winning some money on your dollar bet. That's how it feels like when you get a refund from IRS. How long does it take for IRS to send out a refund?
Well, it's not that bad now. Right now, within 2 to 3 weeks, you get the refund, especially if it's a direct deposit. For any reason, the bank account is not right, or for any reason, if you are not getting the direct deposit in, then it can take a couple of additional weeks for the IRS to process the check and for you to get the check in the mail. The state, depending on which state you are, typically takes longer than the IRS. If the IRS is 2 to 3 weeks, the state is taking 4 to 5 weeks. Most states will take a little longer because they typically process the refund only after the IRS has processed the refund. The problem is if there is a liability stuck in the system, the state has the right to offset the refund against the liability. So most states will wait for the IRS refund to process before they process their own refund.
Okay.
So state refund is typically later than the IRS refund.
All right, good. Can the refund amount be different? Let's say you file a tax return and you said, maybe you're getting $1,000 refund, and you get a check for $1,200 or $800. Can it be?
It is very common. It's never
common?
It's very, very common. It's never $1,200 though.
Okay.
It can be less than what you were expecting,
Okay.
not more.
Okay.
And there are many reasons for it. So first reason is if your computed tax liability is lower than the IRS is computing, then IRS will offset the refund with whatever they believe to be right. If you claim less than what you expected, they will never give you more money. But if you are claiming more than what you were expecting to claim, IRS has the right to offset the refund. The other potential issue could be that you owed money from a prior year that you did not know.
Yes.
If you are expecting a refund, then IRS will try to offset whatever you owe in the prior years against this refund and give you what you owe in net. So IRS refund can be lower than what you were expecting. It's never higher than what you were expecting.
Okay, good point. I need an answer in one line for this question.
Please.
What are amended tax returns and can it be filed electronically?
Well, amended tax return can be filed electronically now for 3 years. And amended tax return basically is amending a tax return that's originally filed. You forgot to include some income. You forgot to include some deduction. Now you want to correct it. And that's where the word amended or X, 1040X comes in. I already filed something. Now I'm trying to amend it, change it.
Correct.
And you still have the right to file it electronically.
Electronically it can be done. Okay, and that goes for the same personal and corporate tax return?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, all right. The reason I was saying I need a one-line answer to that question, because now I want to talk about Science CPA services.
Absolutely.
A full-fledged accounting firm, they are expert in accounting, in the tax filing, bookkeeping services, payroll services, and most importantly, they can guide you and advise you where to invest your money, so that way your tax liability can be less than what it can be. It's too late for now, but when the 2023 comes to an end and 2024 begins, that's when you should really reach out to Science CPA and get their advice. Meaning, the point I'm trying to make is that they are there to help you out to do your taxes right, to invest your money right, and also whatever the credits, whatever deductions that you're entitled to get, Science CPA services will make sure that you get that, because they're full-fledged accounting staff. Everybody knows everything, and they will not miss a thing. Instead of going to a person where it's a one-man show and then doing 100 tax returns in 3 days or so, it could be something missed out. But here, their work style and ethic is such that everyone looks into the return to make sure it's done right. And that's why you need to reach out to Science CPA Services. 908-380-6876 is their phone number, or visit sciencecpaservices.com, their website. You must be really busy right now, going crazy, huh?
Yes, it's busy time, but I'm happy to be here.
Oh, you're always happy to be here. Okay, now in the end, I'm happy to share this news. Let's take our pressure of mind after bank collapse and tax stories.
Absolutely.
And everything. Okay. Former mayor of Los Angeles, whom he's very close to President Joe Biden, right? Mm-hmm. And Joe Biden had maybe kind of promised him that he will get this job. And finally, it took nearly 2 years, but former Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti finally got the job. And that job is to be U.S. Ambassador to India.
That's great. That's amazing. Yes.
All right.
It's good for India too.
Exactly. Eric Garcetti is going to be the next U.S. ambassador to India. And last but not the least, quickly, I want to touch base upon, hey, listen, football's over, baseball is about to start. In between, we are stuck here in March, talking Texas too much. So now we're going to divert our attention and talk about basketball. NCAA, National College Athletic Association. NCAA, their Super 16, the madness has begun for men and women. This is going to be really, really interesting. You can never predict who's going to win, because it's just so interesting for men and women. But when it comes to men favorites, it looks like maybe Houston or Alabama, they may win. Let's see what happens in Kansas and Purdue and all these teams. They're not too far. Yep. So from Sweet 16 to Super 8 to Super 4 and finale. When it comes to women, watch out South Carolina. South Carolina, they haven't lost a game this season. So watch out. But then UConn is really good at winning the games, and Stanford and the Utah and Indiana, Maryland. There are many college teams, and each college teams are getting better and better. So look out for March Madness, Sweet 16, whenever you get a chance. Do watch out those games. You will definitely enjoy it. With that note, I am Sanjeev Pandya, wishing you happy and tax-free days ahead. AJ, thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you.
Until we meet again, same place, same time. Take care of yourself. So long.